Right, good morning, karibu sana. I know it's raining wherever you are, but we are here to kickstart your day the best way we know how to. Hotter than your coffee, this is a morning cafe. Karibu sana. My name is Freddie Ndimuli.
My name is Shiksha Arora. Of course, if you've just tuned in, remember you can find us on social media. That is at TV47 Kenya News on X, as well as at TV47 KE on Facebook and Instagram, at Shiksha Arora.
At Freddie Ndimuli.
The hashtag remains the same, Morning Cafe TV47 Kenya. And in case you're wondering what's happening on this rainy day, well, there's a lot, especially in terms of politics. The newspapers are saying it
Very
all.
interesting.
The environment is hot, especially when it comes to politics.
But it is 28 days to Christmas, so something to look forward to. The countdown continues. Now I think it's fair enough. You can put up your Christmas tree.
I've actually been seeing a lot of people on social media putting up their trees, and I don't judge them anymore because we are approaching the beginning of December. Officially, according to me, you're allowed because even Mariah Carey does the same.
Uliuzwa sema Morning Cafe crew walisema we can put up our Christmas trees.
You are allowed to.
34 days to the end of 2024. Plus, it is the third day of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence.
Absolutely.
And that's why we'll be having this conversation.
That is Anne Wamuratha, Woman Rep Kiambu, who is going to be speaking to us about, GBV, especially when it comes to the recent situation here in Kenya. We have seen an uproar in the online community. We have seen protests against GBV. There's one upcoming as well. And of course, femicide is a big topic here in Kenya. And yes, Anne will be giving us, her point of view with regards to what the government is doing when it comes to GBV.
Yes, definitely a very timely conversation. After that,
we have Enhancing Environmental Sustainability. James Odongo, who's CEO of Kenya Extended Producer Responsibility Organization, that's KEPRO, and he will be taking us through what recycling is, how important it is when you are packaging your products in the manufacturing industry to ensure that you do it sustainably and in a way that doesn't harm the environment.
Right. Now, before all that, of course, we'll have the State of the Nation. Today, Jane Kagiri, woman representative Laikipia, David Kiplagat, MP Soi, and Geoffrey Ruku, MP Mbeere North, will be our panelists this morning to discuss the main headlines. So now we can take a look at the headlines because they are very interesting. Yesterday, we saw the president in Kisumu and they were at Kondele, and there was a huge crowd. So the debate actually on X is, hey, did you see that crowd? Munafikiria mumeona hiyo crowd ya Kondele? So kwenye kurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo, habari kuu pale, jaribuni mtamfuata Gachagua. Rais aambia wakazi wa Kisumu hatachelea kuchukulia hatua wanaokumbatia ukabila. Habari kuu pale kwenye kurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo.
Right, on the Standard newspaper, Will Raila bases cool heat from Mount Kenya.
Yes, that's a big discussion.
And that's the big discussion today on all newspapers.
On the Star, courts cash-starved as backlogs build up. They say judiciary is facing a budget shortfall of up to 43 billion shillings, and that is what is resulting in the backlog in cases. And they've used that photo in Kondele yesterday.
The same turnout, just to show.
Anauliza watu wa Mount Kenya, mumeona hii picha? Mkoshua mumeona hii picha?
All right, People Daily, Mbadi on the spot over hefty pay cuts. And he has been summoned by MPs, just explained why some employees are going empty-handed due to punitive taxes. Empty-handed is the key word.
We'll be back to discuss a lot more there. On the Daily Nation, Ruto, why Gachagua had to go, and yes, it makes reference to what some of the pronouncements the president made yesterday while in Kisumu.
And that's the Business Daily that starts off with MPs losing battle to block shillings 1 billion tax on car grants. And this is something that we have been seeing over the years. The prices have been going up when it comes to exporting, of course, of cars. And if you're working in Parliament, if you're a member of Parliament, and if you are trying to get a car from outside, what exactly is happening? Is it tax-free for you?
They should pay tax, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea. Let's cross over and take a look at the regional dailies. We'll start off in Uganda, and this is a Daily Monitor. 60 billion shillings gone from BOU. That's the Bank of Uganda in 60 seconds. Sounds like a movie title, but it's 60 billion shillings Ugandan money. So Bank of Uganda officials say they are waiting for a police investigation to help them confirm the whereabouts of $17 million that was reportedly siphoned out of the central bank's accounts in just
I've actually
seconds.
watched a movie about this. And this is crazy how a whole movie situation is happening in our neighboring country, in Uganda.
$17 million in 60
in
seconds.
60 seconds,
Just
less
like
than a
that.
minute.
In fact, the headline should have just read in 60 seconds. Then you ingine kuja hapa chini. Okay, the front page of the Daily Monitor gives space to this other story, diabetes eating up young people. They say it is a crisis. There was an overall increase in the prevalence of high blood glucose, an indicator of diabetes, from 1.3% in 2014 to 2.9% last year. So there are about over 3,000 children and adolescents live with type 1 diabetes in Uganda. In rural areas, the prevalence of high blood glucose in rural areas increased from 1.1% in 2014 to double that figure. That's more than double, 2.8%.
And that one is actually quite alarming because if you consider the diet that is consumed, by people in rural areas, it is supposed to be quite healthy, non-processed foods, no junk food. So I'm trying to understand where this story is coming from and what is leading to this spike in diabetes.
Probably it's not related to the diet, probably to something else.
Maybe
that's something that needs to be investigated. But probably if you get a copy of the Daily Monitor, they may expound more on that.
Absolutely.
On pages 2 and 3 of this paper.
That is 3,000 more teaching jobs, 250 vacancies for head teachers, deputies. Good news there, of course. News Vision always trying to focus on positivity and optimism when it comes to the vision of Uganda.
Oh, yes.
Right there, Museveni opens African Management Conference.
It's on page 5. There's a very interesting story here.
Grasshopper season kicks off. Do you remember when there was a time in Kenya when we had a similar situation with grasshoppers?
But we didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Now it would appear in Uganda, they have, you see this picture down here, they say, and they call it nsenene.
Okay.
Grasshopper customers lining up to buy them from traders at a market in Katwe on Entebbe Road yesterday.
So they are consuming them.
Yes, as the holiday season begins, the arrival of grasshoppers signals a festive mood in Uganda. See, I told you, the festive mood is already here with
So
us.
over here, us, we're eating fried chicken, them they're eating fried grasshoppers.
Nsenene. So they're there in the market, so if you go to that market, wanauza tu nsenene. I tell you, in Kenya we had grasshoppers, we had no clue what to do
We
with
were wondering what next? How do you get rid of them? How do you get rid of them in the farms? Eat them.
Interesting photo there. And this marks the official beginning of the festive season. That's as far as the new vision. In Tanzania, today is a day, D-Day, election day.
Absolutely. Crucial test for Tanzanian democracy. Tanzanians go to the polls today in 2024 local government elections that are precursor to next year's general election, which will once again test Tanzania's credentials as far as democracy and governance is concerned. Very interesting. So this particular, it just highlights the amount of people that have been registered to vote, that is in today's local government elections. That is 31.2 million people.
Now, this is the equivalent of the words in Kenya. Serikali za mitaa wanaziita pale. Another key highlight here on the front page, because of the elections which have occupied the biggest space, this one has been confined to the bottom right corner. Kariakor toll rises to 29 as cleanup ends. So this, I think the recovery efforts at the site of that collapsed building is slowly coming to an end, and they've confirmed that the death toll has risen to 29. So those are the big stories as far as the citizen in Tanzania is concerned. Kwenye Mwananchi, habari ni ile ile, siku ya uamuzi. Watanzania leo wanapiga kura kuchagua wenye viti wa mitaa, vijiji na vitongoji. Rais Samia ataka uamuzi wa wananchi uheshimiwe na polisi kuimarisha ulinzi. So the main focus is just on the civic polls throughout Tanzania, on both the front pages of the Citizen and Mwananchi. So tomorrow we'll just be looking at results. Wengine nasema 9 wa familia moja waliokufa kwa mvua Tarime kuzikwa kesho. 9 people from the same family died because of rains.
That is very unfortunate.
Very shocking.
Very, very
there. All right. Hali ilivyo Jengo Kariakoo, vifo vyafikia 29 ni habari nyingine ambayo imepewa kipaumbele kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti hili la Mwananchi kule Tanzania. Tutarejelea kuangalia magazeti hapa nchini baadaye kwa kina, lakini kwa sasa let's come back home and take a look at the weather situation. Because yes, it's raining in quite a number of places. Let's see if it's raining in Meru. Let's start off in Meru.
All right, taking a look at Meru, which currently feels like 16 degrees, and that is the current temperature. If you look at the temperature throughout the day, there's highs of 22 degrees. And of course, from midday onwards, all up until evening, there's thunderstorms, showers expected, 70% chance of precipitation the entire afternoon, all up to the evening, leading up to the evening. And of course, as you can see, a rainy day through and through in Meru.
Yes. Highs of 22 degrees, so it promises to be quite a chilly day in Meru. 4.8 millimeters of rainfall.
That is quite high.
Yes. So that is as far as Meru is concerned. Let's take a look at Nakuru.
Similar situation right there. Of course, 16 degrees, just as Meru is. And here we can see the entire day, not even through the afternoon, the entire day, apart from maybe 2 hours where there's a window of sunshine at 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. But apart from that, 80% chance of thunderstorms from 1 p.m. onwards.
Look at the amount of rain.
20.6 millimeters.
Nakuru leo kunanyesha. This one hakuna.
And Meru was 4, and
yes.
I was like, yeah, that's quite high. 20
millimeters of rainfall in Nakuru. That is pretty high.
Pretty high.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's as far as Nakuru is concerned. Let's go up north to Moyale and take a look at what's happening there.
21 degrees feels like 24 degrees. Of course, it is warmer than Meru and Nakuru, but still, it is raining from 11 a.m. up until 5 p.m. around there.
More or less a drizzle, not really
20%,
yes.
not so high.
Because if you look at the levels, it's 3.3,
which isn't bad, if you ask me, compared to Nakuru, which is 20. But yes, light showers expected from 11 a.m. up until 5 p.m. That is currently the situation in Moyale.
Moyale, highs of 28 degrees,
yes.
and you'll notice that they say Moyale in Ethiopia. There's Moyale, Ethiopia, and Moyale, Kenya. It's more or less the same thing. Ni pale pale tu.
Just at the border.
Let's take a look at Mombasa there.
All right.
See if at all there's any chance of proper holiday weather.
Well, it feels like 30 degrees, Fred.
Yes. Oh, beautiful weather in Mombasa.
Beautiful weather.
Beautiful weather in Mombasa.
No chance of rain
no
at
chance
all.
of rain. Actually, 0.5 millimeters
so
precipitation.
It's a beautiful sunny day, holiday weather in Mombasa. So I guess everyone just needs to pack their bags and go to Mombasa to experience this, the glory of God. Because look at that, 31 degrees through and through. That is the highest. And of course, 26 degrees is what it's averaging at. But yeah, seems like a beautiful sunny day in Mombasa.
If you want for holiday, Mombasa is your place. Let's come back
here
home and
in
take a look at
Nairobi, because getting out of the house in these rains, I even had to remove those gumboots. I don't remember the last time
you came in gumboots into studio today.
Yes, because my compound was flooded. So trying
you had to swim.
I thought I might need a boat, but luckily I managed.
You know, when sometime last year when the governor of Nairobi said that the county would actually set aside funds to buy boats, people really took up, as in there was an uproar. Like, how would you even budget for boats in Nairobi?
And then
now, do you see the need for boats?
100%. He was five months ahead, because look at what happened when there was flash floods in the country. Of course, you saw different areas were flooded, especially the areas of Runda, Gigiri. Did you see what had happened where people's houses were flooded and they were going around the estate in boats?
Yes, they actually had to buy boats
themselves. Had to buy their own boats themselves.
So in Nairobi today, yes, chance of rain in the afternoon, from mid-afternoon around 3 p.m. going up.
And all up until 9 a.m. actually, Fred. It seems to be raining throughout from now until 9 a.m.
Yes, but there's a chance, a window of sunlight between 10 and 2 p.m.
So 4 hours here and there.
You can run your errands comfortably before the rains kick in
go back
home. In the afternoon. Yes.
And
by around 3-4.
How much precipitation are we expecting?
6.6.
So higher than Meru?
Yes. So
a substantial amount
definitely
right there.
Expect some rain. It's been raining the whole night.
50% chance of thunderstorms and rain in Nairobi in the afternoon from 3 p.m. onwards.
So that's the traffic situation, but I'm sure because of the rains, the traffic situation could also change.
Already I can see the reds.
Let's try and see if this will disappear.
So yeah, yes, right there, that is in Muranga.
Kindly press that for me. You can see the snarl appear at around this area, Pangani interchange, you can see how red it is. This is beyond normal.
Especially for this time.
You can see the red stretches over to sections of Muranga Road, very close to the Globe Cinema roundabout. This is because of the rains. So this whole stretch of Muranga Road,
too, right this area as well, there seems to be a traffic build-up right there.
So guys using Thika Road and Kiambu Road heading into town, be sure to encounter some very slow traffic around Pangani interchange and Muranga Road heading into town. Sections of Ngara, I think that's Desai Road. Yes, there's look at town. This is the area around Easy Coach area, Haile Selassie Avenue.
It is looking very busy right there.
Yes. People are traveling for holiday.
That's it, already.
Some of them are carrying Christmas trees.
Yeah. Let's take a look at
Jogoo Road wamechelewa, watu wajaamka. It's green and just a bit of yellow around Makadara area.
There is some red here on Likoni Road.
Likoni Road, yes. But it's looking much better than what's happening at Pangani.
Lunga Lunga Road seems to be having a traffic build-up right there as well.
Yeah, because of the trucks around...
and the expressway as usual.
Yes, expressway pale juu iko sawa, lakini ukiangalia huko chini, exit 6, just before you get to the Emara Ole Sereni interchange there, there's a problem there. Southern bypass looking good. We're taking a look at Langata Road now, not bad at all. Bagadi we're looking good as well. Ngong Road, nothing much to report there. And I think even Wayaki Way.
Just the usual
expressway pale
the exit to the entrance.
So the biggest problem is actually...
University of Nairobi right there. There is a traffic...
I think that's the exit for the bypass, the expressway there as well. So the biggest problem is actually at Pangani interchange and Muranga Road this morning.
Going into Muranga Road.
If it changes, we'll come back and take a look at that later. So for now, let's take a look at the dailies in depth. Kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo, jaribuni mtamfuata Gachagua. William Ruto, rais, ameapa kumfuta kazi kiongozi yeyote ambaye ataendelea kueneza chuki, ukabila na mgawanyiko miongoni mwa Wakenya, akiahidi kuendelea kuunganisha nchi. Katika shambulizi la moja kwa moja dhidi ya aliyekuwa naibu wake Rigathi Gachagua, Daktari Ruto alisema tayari ametoa mfano kwa kuwatimua baadhi ya watu wanaoeneza migawanyiko na ukabila. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa pili. Hakumtaja jina, alisema tu si mimi mnaona nimefurusha watu, hata wengine nitawafurusha. Vitisho kweli kweli.
Right.
Benki yashtaki Joho kuhusu mkopo. Benki moja imemshtaki Waziri Joho ikitaka alipe milioni 54.5.
Wow.
Malimbikizi ya mkopo kufikia Agosti 1 mwaka huu.
And actually this is because back in the day, I don't remember the exact year, but I think it was 2007. That is when the loan was actually taken. No, I beg your pardon, that was not true. 2014.
Okay.
In 2014 is when 40 million shillings is the amount of money that he borrowed. And
so this is interest, actually.
Yes, that is an interest. So that's the amount he borrowed under Islamic banking. Okay. So after that, of course, the interest has almost, as you said, well, seems like almost 50%.
Yes.
There's an increase of 50%. That is the interest that he's currently experiencing, and seems like he has to pay it sooner or later.
MCS Kericho wakaidi amri ya Rais Ruto. Madiwani wa 27 kati ya 47 wapiga kura kuunga mkono kumtimua spika wa Kericho. Vidokezo zaidi pale juu, jinsi nguo chakavu zazoa kipato, na kuna picha ya Raila pale, asema kampeni ya Raila iko sawa. Musali asema serikali ya Kenya yazuru nchi mbalimbali Afrika kumvumisha Raila kwa AUC. Kampeni inaendelea. Gazeti la Taifa Leo.
That is the Standard newspaper. Will Raila base his cool heat from Mount Kenya? Of course, this particular story that says facing rebellion in Mount Kenya after Rigathi Gachagua's impeachment, President Ruto gave his strongest hint yet that he's ready for new allies, even as his central fight-back plan met with resistance. Yesterday, Ruto, preaching unity, stormed Nyanza and showered Raila with praise for helping steady his ship. That particular story on page 4 2005. And these are his words, okay? He says, sometimes in the past, I helped Agwambo, and this time round, he has also returned the favor and helped me. Is there any problem? Should we continue or no? That is the question that he has posed.
All right, and the debate online is about how big the crowd was at Kondele. And most people are saying, mulifikiria Mlima ndio iko na crowd, watch Kondele. We'll see that crowd on the other front pages. But a quick highlight here, litmus test as ODM goes to the polls. This is another very interesting piece of news. After several false starts, ODM faces a litmus test yet again as it conducts its grassroots elections in the face of internal wars and tension. The story is on page 6.
Under that story, Rigathi, MPs query 1 billion shillings expenditure, and they want an account, a detailed account of how 1.12 billion shillings was actually spent under the Deputy President's office during the tenure of embattled former DP Rigathi Gachagua. That's on page 30.
All right. On the back page, Mbappe takes reins for Madrid in Liverpool clash, a continuation of Champions League fixtures tonight. Some games being played at 8:45, others at 11 p.m. And I'm trying to see, yes, Liverpool versus Real Madrid. Liverpool will be hosting Real Madrid. Hey, that's a big game. Big one at 11 p.m.
For football enthusiasts.
Mbappe there. So for lovers of the Champions League, something to look forward to. That's the Standard. Let's take a look at the Star. Courts cash-starved as backlogs build up. A judiciary faces a budget shortfall of between 20 billion and 43 billion shillings. And this is what is blamed for the backlog in cases. The story is on pages 4 and 5. But I'm wondering because I think the judiciary and the executive patched up the differences, so I don't know why there's still a problem there.
That's actually a photo right there from Kondele, where...
Rousing welcome. A city rolls out red carpet for Ruto. So this is a picture that is actually trending online.
He actually attended the 4th African Sub-Sovereign Governments Network Investment Conference yesterday, and that seems to be the welcome and the turnout at...
You should see the number of bloggers who are sharing these pictures.
Kisumu County.
Yes, quite a number of bloggers sharing this and taunting Murima, telling them, you want to see a crowd? Come to Kondele. And all this is for Ruto.
Up there, US believed Mwai Kibaki lost 2007 presidential race, told him to his face. That is on page 2.
This is Martha Karua's book.
Yes, the book launch that was actually a few days ago, last week, Sunday. Not this week, the week before. And she had a huge launch party, invited the who's and the who's. Lots of women were actually in attendance. You know, the huge media personalities went to witness her launching her book. So that seems to be what's inside the book.
All right. Interesting. People Daily, Mbadi, on the spot.
Over hefty pay cuts. Treasury chief summoned by MPs to explain why some employees were going home empty-handed due to new punitive taxes. That's on page 4.
Yes, and it's beyond even just government employees, because what happens is there's that requirement if you're taking loans for... you can't go beyond 1/3 of your salary. 2/3, you can't go beyond 2/3. At least 1/3 of your salary should get into your account.
Yes.
So because of the new taxes, many people have found themselves defying that. So it has become...
They're paying more than 40% as well. 40 to 55, I've seen in some cases.
So now, because they had already committed the money, so less than 1/3 of their salary is getting to the account, and that's against the law.
That's an issue.
So that's why they've summoned him. There's another very disturbing story here.
Pain as another medical intern dies by suicide. Just a few weeks ago, we saw another medical intern who committed suicide, and yet again, this story making the cover page, making the headlines. Very unfortunate.
They've been working for about 36, for how many months? 4 or 5 months now without pay.
We actually had that conversation with them here in studio, and they told us how they could go 36 hours.
Yes, they do shifts 36
without a
hours
break,
long.
without a break.
And then there's no money coming in.
Very, very.
So this is like the 4th or 5th case of suicide
this year.
Medical intern this year, and it's very disturbing. How DP residence has become a cash cow for Kenya Kwanza. That's the same story that they're investigating, MPs are investigating. How much money was spent in renovating the DP's residence when Rigathi Gachagua was deputy president.
Let's move on to the Daily Nation and get this picture, which is also in other newspapers as he celebrates. Of course, that's his welcome. He is with Kisumu Governor Anyang' Nyong'o. They're joining traditional dancers during the 4th African Sub-Sovereign Governments Network Investment Conference. He was welcomed by a huge crowd, of course, as you saw. And this is the reason why Gachagua had to go, according to President Ruto. He says, giving the example of his former deputy, Mr. Rigathi Gachagua, who was recently impeached, the president yesterday said he will send home any members of his Kenya Kwanza government who propagate hate, division and tribalism. The head of state said all officials and leaders must preach unity and work for every Kenyan. So basically, he used him as an example and said that if you propagate anything to do with hate, division and tribalism, you must go just the same way embattled
former
DP Rigathi Gachagua went.
Well, there's a very disturbing but rather interesting story there on the front page of the Daily Nation.
Yes.
It's also highlighted on the front page here. I was coerced to fix my father in defilement case, says a woman who is 24 years old. Listen to this. For 17 years now, Daniel Wanyeki Gashoka has been in jail at Committee Maximum Security Prison on trumped-up charges of defiling his daughter.
Wow.
His daughter, who was only 7 when he was arrested on November 27, 2007, was coerced to give false testimony, leading to his conviction on 2 accounts of incest. Mr. Wanyeki was framed by his brother, his mother-in-law, and a police officer who threatened the little girl to testify that her father had repeatedly violated her.
Oh dear.
Now in 2020, the girl, then aged 20, reached out to her father and confessed how she was pressured to fix him. This story is on pages 2 and 3. And I think there's such a sad story. Pages 2 and 3 of the Daily Nation. That disturbing story.
Extremely terrible right there. 13 years in jail.
He's done 17 years.
Yeah, 17 years actually, which, wow, 17 years in jail for charges that were untrue, were
Just so
false.
sad.
Coerced by family members.
Yes, so the young girl was 7 and was forced to say that your father defiled you.
Imagine the trauma that she had to live with and she still lives with.
How do you rectify that? There's no going back.
Can't undo it.
Matters business now.
All right, that is the Business Daily. MPs lose battle to block 1 billion shillings tax on car grants. Tribunal backs carries 2.5 million shillings claim from each MP, and lawmakers argue that motor vehicles reimbursement is tax-free. Now, MP is entitled to free 7.55 million shillings for car purchase per term. So this is actually what it looks like, Fred. Seems like the total car purchases amounts to 3140.8 million, right? The KRA income tax at 30% is 942.24.
That's 1 billion shillings. So they've not been paying taxes.
Exactly. Late penalty charged 5%, 47.11. Total interest, that's 1% per month at 56.53. The total amounts to 1,045.89 million shillings, and KRA is actually seeking 2.51 million shillings from each MP for 30% income tax on 7.5 million shillings for purchase of a car.
Vile tunasema kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea. Vile Wakenya wengine wanalipa ushuru, hata hawa walipe ushuru.
Every Kenyan must pay tax.
Lipa ushuru ni kujitegemea.
That's it. That's all.
Yes. Fuel consumption up on declining pump prices. Wow. It's good to know.
That's good news.
It's good to know that we're now driving more. Malaria deaths up 20% in new report. So that's something positive as well. Airtel Money eyes Naivas stores for expansion, and Treasury bills keep double-digit returns. These are just some of the businessy
And Africa
highlights.
Invest Group gets special powers at I&M. And they're actually going to be set to be sweeping powers in I&M Group, and seems to be hiring and dismissing of senior management and change of dividend policy. So lots of changes there at I&M, courtesy of Africa Invest Group.
All right, so those are the dailies this morning. Let's now take a look at the cartoons as we wrap up this news review. This is a cartoon on the Daily Nation. It makes reference to the export of young Kenyans for jobs abroad. So this gentleman here, I'm not so sure if it's the CS for Labour, but probably is.
He's rolling the dice.
He's rolling the dice. So it means, is he gambling?
Yeah,
Is he
calling the shots.
Gambling because he's...
with the dice.
Yeah. On the lives of these young Kenyans who...
And she seemed to have been chained.
She's already chained there.
With a flight awaiting her. So actually, I had an interesting experience when I was going to India back in 2021. On the flight, 70% of the flight was actually occupied by young girls who did not seem to have any belongings, no phones. They just had a brown envelope. And almost all of them looked very distressed, looked very confused. And one of them who sat next to me, I had a conversation with her, and she could not speak English. I think she was only able to speak Luya. And Kiswahili also was a bit broken. So we had a conversation, and from what I gathered, so she was going to work in Sharjah, and she had been sent through an agency. And the only thing that they gave her was a mobile phone with a number, one number, a brown envelope, and she was going to be picked up at Sharjah by the agency who is actually carrying out this export of, you know, nannies, you have babysitters, you have maids, you have house helps, you have chefs. So those are the kind of jobs that they do.
Yes. It's a very controversial issue.
Yeah.
Right now the government is, it's part of the government's program, and the CS for Labour, Dr. Alfred Mutua, is really pushing it. I guess it's a gentleman who has been caricatured here by the cartoonist at the Daily Nation. This one is the People Daily.
Femicide cases in Kenya as we count down 16 days of GBV.
Activism against gender-based violence. So they talk about what was happening at the 70s. In the 70s, they say no crisis.
Yeah.
In the 80s, we will deal with it because the cases are now rising.
Yes.
In the 90s, the cases are even more. We are working on it. Now in 2024, the cases have
hit the
gone
roof.
beyond them, and they say help.
Yeah.
So yes, at least this one cartoon makes reference to the gender-based violence and the campaigns around it. This is a standard
This is
now.
about the Adani airport deal. That is President William Ruto, and that's an MP, and who says, we are going to sign all the Adani deals. MP, clap, clap, clap. I order all the Adani deals to be cancelled. Clap, clap, clap. The sky is green and always has been green. MP still clap, clap, clapping.
Hapa wajaambiwa poa. Tunapia, these are the most foolish Kenyans ever. So the sky is green and you still clap. Well, those are the cartoons. It's not me, ni cartoonist wa standard amesema. So these are just some of the conversations we'll be having with my panelists after the break. Do stand by for that. A lot more conversations coming later on, including that one on GBV and
16 days of activism against gender-based violence. We'll be having a conversation on that, as well as just sustainability and how important it is to package your goods as a manufacturer just to be more eco-friendly.
All right, let's take a break now. We'll be back.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwa watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Still watching Morning Cafe on TV 47 with me, Freddie Ndimuli. Time for us to take a look at the big headlines. But before we do that, today is the third of the 16 days of the third day of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, and we continue monitoring and making different reports on this issue. One of our reporters filed a report on this. Let's watch the story.
As the country intensifies its campaign for the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, sexual violence remains a persistent crisis in Tana River County. This activists mobilized border operators to raise awareness addressing the pressing issue that demands urgent decisive action.
Kijinsia hapa Tana River sio nzuri kwa sababu ziko juu, kesi hizi za dhulma ziko juu.
Mara nyingi mabodaboda pia wanahusika kwa hiyo maneno, lakini sasa uzuri wamepata mafunzo kidogo ili kuepukana na hiyo maneno ya dhuluma ya kimapenzi.
Due to the rise of early pregnancies in Kwale County, Governor Fatuma Achani called on the residents to report sexual violence cases at police stations instead of solving them with the local chiefs and elders.
Chifu si kazi yake kuzungumza kesi ya ubakaji. Kesi ya ubakaji peleka straight, mtu apelekwe ndani, mambo yaishe.
While GBV against women is more prevalent, men and boys are also victims of GBV. In Vihiga County, men and children have been mentioned as the main victims of GBV. However, the majority of affected men remain silent out of fear of facing stigma.
Over 800 cases of gender violence in Vihiga County. Vihiga is the most affected in Kenya today.
And this is because of culture or cultural norms or the beliefs in the society and the issue that you'll not be a man enough. I think we should come out of the cocoon of the cultural norms, societal norms, and come up and report so that they get justice, rather than you find that you'll get burying more men than women because men don't speak out. But we are calling them to speak out.
Gender-based violence requires a united effort to empower survivors and educate communities about GBV to ensure that everyone can live in a free from violence and fear environment. Anastasia Mukabi, TV47.
Yes, gender-based violence, the biggest discussion around this time of the year. We're privileged to have in studio Jane Kagiri, woman representative Laikipia County. Karibu sana. Good morning to you. We're hoping two gentlemen will be joining us, but just as well, before they come, I think it's even better that you're here, so that we discuss about this issue that is bedeviling this country, gender-based violence. We are just on the third day of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. We've been seeing the statistics on the different papers. In Kenya, cases of femicide are on the rise. Even the president, in his State of the Nation address before the joint houses of parliament, he made mention of the same and even offered, promised 100 million shillings towards setting up of safe houses for victims. But what seems to be the problem? 97 cases of femicide in 3 months means more than 1 death per day. Those are disturbing figures. What do you think the problem is?
Thank you, Fred. And first, let me start by appreciating your station, because in the 16 days of activism, at least you've made GBV to be your first highlight this morning. So I appreciate that, because as we are talking of the 16 days, we need to show accountability, commitment, and action. And at least with your station, you're helping us sensitize the community by making it your starting news this morning. But for me, what I would want to say is it's very unfortunate that we are currently experiencing what we're experiencing in regards to GBV in the country. But let it be known that in every 10 minutes, a woman is killed in this world. So, and the second thing, let us also know that 1 in every 3 women has experienced GBV. So it is up to us, and I believe now it's when it's coming to light because of, number 1, the information age, that anything that happens in your neighborhood cannot be highlighted by literally anybody. But that said, I must appreciate His Excellency the President, because he made it a statement in his State of the Nation address, and he showed his commitment that he's ready to stand out there and put up a fight for it. And number 2, by him also committing the 100 million shillings, it also assured any person experiencing GBV, whether a man or a woman, that there'll be a space for them. Because in most cases, Fred, you'll find people experience this violence because they're wondering, if I leave this house, where will I go to? Number 2, if I leave this house, where will I get my food? If I leave this place, where will my children get support from? So you'll always find that people do these things because of fear of the unknown or what their life will look like after out there. So for that reason, I would want to say that I am glad that our government is committing to put an end to femicide as well as GBV. But that said, we also need to call in the judiciary to work with us. We understand everybody has their right, and it is well expressed in the Bill of Rights. However, when somebody does all these things, chops a woman's hands, almost kills her. Then he's taken to court and is given a cash bill of 200,000. And it seems that they have no an idea because all of them surrender themselves. And you know, in the judicial system, when you surrender yourself, your charges are reduced or you're assumed to be a better criminal than anybody else. So I believe we need to also tighten those loose ends to ensure that anybody who commits GBV is shown that this is something that nobody else would be allowed to commit again.
Do you think that some of the interventions, including what the president said, are really enough, given the kind of numbers we're looking at? Yeah. This year alone, the cases of femicide have really gone up. If you put the faces of some of the victims on the paper, it will take at least 2-3 pages. And one wonders, 100 million shillings, are we doing enough? Are we taking this issue with the seriousness it deserves as a country? Do you feel we're doing that? It's interesting, Fred. For me, I would agree with you that 100 million is not enough money. But did you read the comments the following day? Kenyans were asking, why is 100 million being set aside for GBV? Yet you wonder, these are their sisters, these are their brothers, these are their nieces, their aunties, their own mothers who are being protected by the government. So for me, I would want to say, in fact, I actually gave somebody a breakdown. If you divide by 47 counties, that is 2 million shillings. What would 2 million shillings put up? It cannot put up a safe house in any of these counties. So I think literally as Kenyans, we must come down to reducing the negativity and start appreciating that we are the same ones complaining. Women, men are being killed. So can we also be part of the solution? Not that any solution that is being picked up, we are out there to attack it or to say it should not actually be happening. So I believe it is now team effort that has to come in. And of course, even the family fabric has to come back together and ask ourselves what is happening. If it is my son, I have to ask him, how are you treating the girls in your class? How are you behaving in school? If he pushes somebody, I need to ask him, why did you push that girl? Or why did you push that boy? Because these traits start from a very early age. It is us who may not see them. It is us who may ignore them and assume the teacher in school is going to take care of them. But the teacher has another 20 or 30 students to take care of. So it is also us as family. If your child is telling you, Mom, I'm going out, it is it's your duty as a parent to ask, who are you going out with? Where are you meeting them? How long have you known this person? Because unfortunately, we find that even some of these victims, apart from the ones who are attacked in houses, most of them are attacked by strangers. Mm-hmm. Somebody who called her out, come, I take you out for a drink. Come, I'll give you money for this. Somebody innocently goes. But just imagine, there's so many times in your life you have been stopped by somebody who made you second think. So if somebody had asked that person, how well do you know this person? Where are you meeting them? Why aren't you meeting them in an open place? Where are you meeting them in a room? Maybe many, many lives would have been saved. Okay. So I think it is also all of us to come together as a community and start asking ourselves how this is going to end. Finally, Fred, let me also state, it also seems to be a habit that when people engage in GBV, there is room for consultation. A chief will bring them together, tell them, no, you need to reconcile and things like that. Eventually, you'll see this victim will be killed by the same perpetrator whom they've been negotiating with. So we have to also bring an end to this thing of assuming that the victim is the sole person who can report a case. Remember, each of us are government property, as we are. So we also have to ensure that even if a victim withdraws a case, the prosecutor needs to push on with that case. Okay. Yeah. The president, by including this issue in his State of the Nation address, definitely elevated the conversation to a national level. And I'm certain that currently you are, as the National Assembly, you're currently debating the State of the Nation address by the president. Is this conversation being given the prominence it deserves, given even the time that it has come as we mark the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence? Do you feel that even the National Assembly is giving this part of the president's speech the attention it deserves? I believe finally that is getting done because considering that we have a number of women in the National Assembly, each one of us has made it our commitment that in our response to the State of the Nation address, we have to make a mention of femicide and GBV. So I believe that is giving us enough time. And then the other thing we'd want to assure you, Fred, we are not going to allow this to be the end. We have to keep pushing and keep reviving it each day until we get to an end of femicide and GBV in the country. All right. Allow me to welcome David Kiplagat to the panel. David Kiplagat is a MP, Soi constituency. Karibu sana. You found us discussing the issues of gender-based violence that have become very prevalent in this country, and even the president included it as a mention in his State of the Nation address, which you're currently debating as members of the National Assembly. And we're just trying to figure out what is wrong with this society. What is going wrong? There are people who blame it on mental health issues. Do you agree with them? And do you think this nation is giving this issue the seriousness it deserves?
Okay, thank you, and good morning to our viewers. Apologies for coming late, it's a bit rainy. All the same, better late than never. On this issue of gender-based violence, it's an issue that has skyrocketed in the last few months. Reasons, I think the investigative agencies need to get deeper to understand what is really happening, but it is rather sad that there is this violence against our girls, against our women, and in some extreme cases against our boys. It's not only the girl child that is affected, and I think the government needs to come up with strategies. I think a strategy will do, including maybe in part of the policing will have a section that actually deals with gender-based violence, because the way things are, it is getting out of hand. So I believe all the leaders, all the investigative agencies, and the National Police Service need to sit down and come up with a strategy that will address once and for all the issue of gender-based violence.
And it's interesting you mentioned the police, because a few years back, same thing to do with this conversation, there was a setting up of gender desks at police stations. And years later, it would appear those gender desks are either no longer there or they're not as effective. Probably even some of them ending up as centers or stations of stigma. Do you think that the approach can be any different? Because many interventions have been tried out. None seems to be working so far.
I think we cannot give up. If the strategies that we had been employed earlier were not working, it does not give an abundance that we can stop and do nothing, because these issues are coming up, and I believe the professionals within the policing unit and also those people who have dealt with gender-based violence will come up with a strategy, and a strategy that is watertight, a strategy that will not victimize anyone, but at the end of the day, they'll get to the root cause of this gender-based violence, because it has to be addressed one way or another. You can imagine looking at various segments. We have, I think we have the tourism police, and that came because of the attacks that were happening on our tourists. So they started our whole unit for tourism policing. I believe if this one has become eminent, so there is nothing that stops from having a gender-based violence police to deal with it specifically for that item.
Jane, you must agree that probably that's a brilliant proposal. The gender desks at police stations have not really worked.
In fact, I want to add and state that when we visited the president as the women leaders, one of our asks was for him to allow that gender desks at police stations be moved to hospitals. And that is something he gladly accepted. Because we must all agree, even in a case of a woman who has been raped or a girl who has been raped, or even a boy or a man, the first point of interaction you'd want to do is run to a police station. No, sorry, first run to a hospital, because you feel you have actually been messed up or something. So when you run to the hospital, then they'll tell you, no, you should have first gone to the police station to report. So what we are asking for is a one-stop kiosk at the hospital, so that you get to the hospital, report, immediately get attended to, the tests are done, so that, because formally, you'll always find that suspects got away because of this whole period. So if a lady goes and showers, the next thing is they have no evidence against the person. But if we make it a one-stop shop, she'll be immediately guided. Report to the police desk, rush to this area, this is picked, and immediately the tests can begin, and it's very easy to get the suspects.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of legislation, you stand the best chance as members of the National Assembly to actually push through with this. Do you think that the kind of intervention we need to counter cases of GBV would benefit from probably enhanced legislation, probably in terms of even penalties for perpetrators?
Yeah, I think legislation will do in terms of making sure that those ones who are found guilty, actually the offense becomes harder in terms of in terms of the conviction. So if the conviction and also the time, that sometimes these cases takes a very long time, and in between I've had some cases where families come and they exchange cows to quieten the whole thing. So I believe we need a very strong legislation to guard on that, to make sure that the conviction can be done as quickly as possible so that it doesn't take a lot of time, and also to make sure that once you are found guilty, at least you get the maximum sentence that is there.
But how do we overcome that cultural challenge? Because some communities have those methods of trying to pacify some of these situations. It is a challenge, you must admit.
Yeah, it's a big challenge, especially messing up with witnesses, because it's a criminal act that goes through the criminal law, and criminal law evidence is very important, and evidence that is beyond reasonable doubt. So once you have the victim having been compromised, say that he also compromises giving of evidence, then it becomes harder. So we need to go around it to find out that part of the evidential collection actually cuts against the cultural beliefs and cultural intervention that might come up.
All right. Today is the third day of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. It is a conversation we're having right here in studio with MPs David Kiplagat and Jane Kagiri of Soi and Laikipia, respectively. It is exactly 2 minutes to 7, so let's take a break now. When we come back, we'll delve into the other headlines on our dailies.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side. We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. we dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jane Kagiri of Laikipia. There's one headline here that I don't think I'd be fair if I let you go out of studio without talking about. It's the one on the Business Daily. We rarely talk about headlines on the Business Daily because they're usually matters business. This one has to do with tax by members of the National Assembly. If my director can help me with the front page of the Business Daily, at least put it up on the screen. And it reads this way: MPs lose battle to block 1 billion shilling tax on car grants. Listen to this. Members of Parliament have suffered a blow after their bid to overturn a tax demand of 1 billion shillings for car grants was rejected by the tax tribunal. The tribunal ruled that the KRA has the right to demand 2.5 million shillings from each of the 416 lawmakers, 349 in the National Assembly, 67 in the Senate, as 30% income tax on the car grant. MPs and senators are provided with a car grant of up to 7.5 million shillings for purchase of a car of engine capacity not exceeding 3,000 cc to undertake their official duties. Now, the lawmakers had claimed that the car grant, officially known as motor vehicle reimbursement, is tax-free. At a time when Kenyans are digging deep into their pockets to pay taxes, why should members of parliament feel that on a grant of this magnitude, that it should be tax-free? Jane?
Fred, I'm listening to you and just wondering where all that was discussed and where it happened. But the beautiful word I'm seeing on that headline is grant. Grant is something you're given. You have no terms on it. So if you're given, if I came to this morning and gave you a gift, would you start telling me you'd want it bigger, smaller, wider? You just accept it as it's given. So I don't think we'd have a voice in saying whether it should be taxed or not. It is a grant. It is something being given to you. So in whatever package it's going to come, if it's going to come taxed or not taxed, I didn't have it, so I'll receive it as it is. So in fact, what I'm lost on is where all this happened. Because these days, I think anybody who wants to pick up a headline just thinks an attack on MPs would work, but I don't think anybody would have a problem.
For the matter to have gotten to a tax tribunal, it means it's something public, that there's a process that has gone, and it would appear that it's the lawmakers who instituted this issue by challenging the KRA's demand for tax. If it's a benefit like any other allowance you get which is taxable, why shouldn't MPs pay tax on the car grant as well?
Okay, maybe what we need to ask ourselves is, you know, you are talking about income tax, the money you have earned. But if this cup, for example, is 100 shillings in the supermarket, and I give you give your child, for example, that 100 shillings to go and buy for himself this cup, and he goes and buys the cup at 100 shillings, and he brings the cup. Now, where do you want him to remove 30 shillings to pay the taxman in this process? So that is it. It is money that when you are elected for the first time, as part of the packages that MPs have, members of parliament have, is the reimbursement of around 7.5 million to buy for them a car. The reason being, if you get to the other state officers, like the principal secretaries, the cabinet secretaries, they are given and maintained a car. They are given the car, they are given fuel, it's the state that runs the vehicle. For MPs, because of the sheer numbers, that's not possible to manage in that line. So the package is you are given a grant to buy a car, and that car is worth that much. And you are even when you are applying for the grant, you give the logbook of you give the agreement of the vehicle owner, you give the value and things like that, and the payment is made. So you want to tell me, Idimuli, from that transaction, let us be practical.
So
you know,
it is
sometimes
true that MPs feel that this amount should not be.
No, even where I've given you a very good example that you are given to give, and here is the agreement. It says, I have this Brado at 7.5 million. I'm buying from X. I give the money to X. Now, where do you want me to go and search for now the 30%? You know, practically, you can see the quagmire that sometimes we find ourselves in.
As it would appear, according to this tribunal, now you will be required to pay this tax.
So unless now the employer, before giving me the 7.5, he assumes it is a net, and he pays from his own ways the extra amount. But what I know is that the money I received, I paid the person who was selling me, or the company which was selling me the car, that amount, and I remain with nothing. So where do you want me now to go and search the 30%?
The headline on the front page of the Business Daily: MPs lose battle to block 1 billion shilling tax on car grants. Each one of them is expected to pay 2.5 million shillings to KRA.
From which source? From which income?
Well, I'm just reading the story there. Probably they'll deduct from your pay.
But that pay was, did it contribute? Did I earn? You know, I need to earn for me to pay. You know,
well, the story says that
you know, sometimes I think there is this tendency of looking at MPs in a very bad light in everything and anything under the sun. You know, when an employer gives you, this is your package, then that is the package. And part of it is 7.5 grant that goes specifically to make you motorable. Unless you tell us we are willing to surrender the issue of grant, unless now the government gives us vehicles and runs it the way they are running for cabinet secretaries and principal
interestingly, there are no public views on this. This is a tax tribunal issue, so Kenyans don't even know. So the tax tribunal
whoever came
has
up with
decided.
it, they sort themselves out.
All right, that's one headline that has to do with the legislators. The other one is actually the cartoon on the Standard today that has a very interesting depiction of members of parliament and their reaction to the president. I'll ask my director to help me with that cartoon. Yes, this is a cartoon. So it has 3 frames. A caricature of the president, looking at this other caricature dressed in green, which is the MPs. And on the first frame, the gentleman says, we are going to sign all the Adani deals, and the MPs clap. Then the next one, he says, I order all the Adani deals to be cancelled. The MPs clap. The third one, he says, the sky is green and always has been, and the MPs still clap. This cartoonist seems to suggest that members of parliament have a very interesting relationship with the president. Let me call it interesting, that whatever the president says is simply applause. We saw that kind of applause when you gave the president a standing ovation in the National Assembly. When he made the order on Adani deals to be cancelled, yet most of you in the same house had actually spoken in support of the same deals. It's the same thing that happened with the finance bill. that most of you voted for the finance bill, but when the president rejected the same, members of the National Assembly clapped. Is this cartoonist wrong to suggest that members of parliament are a bit, let me call it, interesting in their relationship with the president? Jen.
Fred, I don't even know where to start because you said a lot of things in one statement. But let me first tell you one thing. When the president gave his State of the Nation address, he said he's a listening president. Fred, sometimes I keep telling people, practice a bit of empathy. We said yes to the finance bill, but the country was headed to burning down. There's a point you get to and you say the country is bigger than any one of us. As much as we knew, and after the finance bill and the whole Gen Z, we went back to our area, like for me, I went back to my county, and I explained to people. I told them, like now you are told that it is your potatoes that were going to be taxed. For me, I was voting yes to imported potatoes to being taxed. I was voting yes to imported oranges being taxed. Fred, you may not go to the market, but anybody who goes to the market on your behalf will tell you, many years ago, an imported South African orange was much expensive than a Kenyan orange. Today, you go to the market, they are the same price because we are charging no levy on imported food products, but our inputs on our food products keeps going up. So the prices have gotten to the same level. Why should we keep encouraging our farmers to grow food, yet we know food that is coming from outside the country is still going to compete with their food? So we were saying yes to that. If it is sanitary towels get to the port of Mombasa at 38 shillings. When you go to the supermarket, the same sanitary towel is being sold at 150 shillings. The locally produced sanitary towel sells at 55 shillings in the supermarket. So the importer is making unscrupulous profits on Kenyans. So then why won't we charge the importer a levy to ensure that this unscrupulous profit is making is also getting back to the country? And number two, we encourage the importer to come and set up his industry within the country. Those are the things that made me say yes to the finance bill. But again, I keep telling my constituents, lies arrived earlier than the truth. So for them, they believe the person who told them it is their potato being taxed. They believe the person who said Jane Kagiri is insisting that sanitary towels and diapers price has to go up. Yet today when I explain to them, that's when they get the logic of, yes, by the way, where are we buying all our sanitary towels and diapers from importers, yet we have local manufacturers. Let me tell you, Fred, I'm the chair of the 47 women reps. Every year we are spending 1 billion shillings, something that has never been done in this country. Today, if you go to your village, any grade 5 to grade 8 student has sanitary towels supply for the whole year. That is 12 packets. But what would shock you, Fred, that 1 billion, we imported sanitary towels from outside the country. I'm supplying my children in my county sanitary towels which I cannot even tell the quality. I cannot even tell where they were manufactured and how they look like. But I will confidently deliver to them, yet I have left local manufacturers in my own country who should be doing that work. Because these people will compete on pricing, and yet what they're bringing to the country is not what is supposed to be quality for children. So those are the things I said yes to. But when it came to the point where the country looked like it was going to burn, I was very fast to withdraw. And of course, as the president is always consultative, the media saw us in State House. It was a back and forth. Some of us saying, no, let's proceed. Some of us saying, no, let's hold it back. Eventually, we all agreed the country is bigger than any one of us. And that is how we withdrew. Not that the president said it's going to be withdrawn. It was a strongly consultative process that got it there. Again, we come to the Adani deals. For some of us, and maybe most of us, we are not people who will shout over the microphone. I am part of the Kenya Kwanza government. I'll take responsibility. Before I was elected, I served in government. And there's something called collective responsibility. I cannot come and attack my president and tell him what you're doing is wrong. I will look for him. I will tell him, Your Excellency, the president, PPPs are the way to go because we have no resources as a government. However, I feel this tender should have been opened to anybody. Even you, Fred, could have money to be the private partner who will put up the airport. We could have our own private investors within Kenya who have capacity to be the partners on that project at the international, of building the airport. So that said, my argument in this whole Adani deal, and maybe sometimes you should show us a clip of Jane Kagiri saying she's pro-Adani. Then you come again and blanket us all and say, this is it. But I chose to silently put in my voice and say, I think this is a brilliant idea, but why don't we put it for open tendering? Let us have Qatar, let us have Emirates, let us have anybody. Let us not zero in on one person, yet maybe could get more competitive bids on the same thing. So I would want to totally disagree.
Okay.
And sometimes I keep telling people, even when you engage somebody, Fred, By now you can tell if David and I are people who should say yes and no, or people who are carried for their brains. We were elected because we had brains, we were intelligent enough to know we were going to serve our people, and what we agree with, we agree with. What we don't agree with, we don't agree with.
But the concern...
And recently, I challenged a media house and told them, when I tabled the cost of the motion on the cost of electricity, I didn't see any of you saying this is a Kenya Kwanza MP who is pushing for the prices of electricity to go down. I dug into all the losses and the problems that we have in the electricity, the energy sector. None of you came and asked me, who has told you to say this? Are you still pro-government? I was fighting for the people. But what we choose to pick is what would make us all look bad.
But you must agree there's a general concern about the relationship between the executive and the house that you sit in, the National Assembly. And this has been the feeling that members of the National Assembly especially just do whatever the president says. You're simply there to do the president's bidding. And even when he says, let's go this way, you clap. When he turns back, you clap. And that's what the cartoonist is saying. Are you saying he's wrong?
Allow me, because you have made several allegations, including the Adani.
Not allegations, I'm just referencing.
Maybe in the Muli, I want to tell you on the issue of finance bill, personally what I hold in supporting the bill, I still hold up to today. But as my colleague said, based on what happened, Kenya is bigger than an individual, and accessing the situation that it was profound that the bill be withdrawn, but that did not solve our problems. Our problems are enormous. Even looking at the struggle we are undergoing now in terms of trying to bring up the various tax laws so that we can actually try to regroup. Where we are heading is that we are heading in a scenario whereby in terms of the budget before borrowing, we are the negative. If you pay the consolidated fund services and all the other mandatory things like county of 387 billion, TAC around 350 billion, public service payroll around 600 billion, and consolidated services around, and that is loans, interest on loans and pension around 1.2 trillion. You will realize the net effect is that from the ordinary revenue you have collected, which is currently around 2.4 trillion, and the other one's around 2.5 trillion, what you are paying, you are minus. So anything else you do, including running around and also doing any development, you have to borrow. And that's the situation we are in. And from our discussion, which is genuine, we felt that for us to be able to stabilize this country, we need, within a period of 3 years, to balance the budget. And that is where we are heading. And for us to balance the budget, we tell ourselves as Kenyans, we have a country to run. We cannot have a country whereby it is run from Washington or from Beijing or from whichever donors that support us for us to be able to run. We have to have a strategy to make sure that within the period of 3 years, what we spend and what we collect, they balance. And that was the rallying call. But maybe because of the incitement that happened within our young generation, there was a lot of pressure, and it was withdrawn. But the problems are confounding further. So, and those problems, it is us in leadership who are supposed to sort. When I was voting for years, I had my farmers. I come from an agricultural county where all our economy depend on farming. We had 15 billion that was supposed to go to subsidy for fertilizer to be able to reduce cost of living. That was reduced to 7.5 billion. We had the issue of electricity where around 60% of my constituents don't have access to power. We had promised them, we are setting around 14.5 billion to be able to address that gradually. And so many other good things. We have the issue of pending bills in the road sector, all the projects mostly have stalled because we lack the exchequer to bring the company, to bring the contractors on site. So there were so many confounding factors to make us vote for the finance bill, but it was paused. Those problems are with us, and we have to find out how to come up out of those processes. And leadership is painful, and you don't have to take the popular route.
And that was what
you always
have expected. If you're so convicted about what you felt then, you should have stuck to your guns.
So what I'm telling you on the issue of Adani, I think you are victimizing MPs. I don't know where you get this idea that we clap here, you turn left, you clap. The issue
there was a standing ovation for the president.
The issue of Adani is that everyone felt PPP is necessary for us to be able to modernize our airports, to modernize our infrastructure, because the physical space is no longer bigger enough to be able to have those major impactful projects. So the PPP, we all agree in principle, is the way to go. And we have a law governing PPPs. We have a procedure in which it is done. And what we were saying as members of parliament is that we agree in principle that PPP is the way to go. But the government and the executors should make sure that they follow the law, to make sure that if it is the issue of being competitive, we let it be competitive. And that is why, if you look at the airport, the airport issue, it had a lot of issues. It had a lot of landmines. There was the issue of the court. There was the issue of the statement that had been brought to Parliament, whereby the concerned committee, the Committee of Transport, was tasked to investigate the matter, and that investigation was still ongoing. And the general view is that looking at this fellow called Adani, there were quite a number of information that were coming up. So it's the same way my colleague has said, behind the scenes, there was some of that chittery as to whether we should go on with this deal as a government. And that is why when the president pronounced himself on the issue of Adani, having cancelled all the ongoing procurement that were on that front, everybody said, hallelujah, this is the way to go. Because there were...
the serious concern
there were undertones.
That even for the State of the Nation address that you are debating currently, that the House of Legislation should offer quality to the president and then not just praise what he said, but also criticize and point out a few things.
You know, sometimes let us also not behave as if we live in an utopian society. We live in a society of democracy, and democracy is there is power. There's the rulers. There is power, and in that power we have a party. We have a party that is in power called UDA, and UDA has its members, which is the majority in the National Assembly, and part of it, our cardinal role is to make sure that at least we defend our party, we defend our president, and we cannot play the opposition role. And that is why in democracy you also expect that there is another party that is minority. May I finish?
No.
May I finish?
I think your point is made.
No. So in National Assembly, you have the minority who are supposed to play the opposition role, and we have the party, the majority, which is UDA, who are supposed to play the majority role. So when you push us as members of parliament in the ruling coalition to start attacking physically our government, I think even in the US, even the Republicans and the Democrats, you will expect that every Republican will support Donald Trump.
Now that the lines are within Parliament between majority and minority are no longer that clear in the House, should we expect only praise when you debate the State of the Nation address?
Fred, I don't want to lose the thought I had on the previous conversation, but let me tell you, we don't just sit there to critique. We were part of the vision of what the Kenya Kwanza government promised. And true to it, sadly that people have chosen, and sadly to say the media houses have chosen not to highlight what is being achieved and rather keep criticizing what they feel they want to say. a lot of what we promised is actually on the way being delivered. And I'll start by stating, I'll pick it up from what I stated in Parliament yesterday. And I said what we are currently experiencing as a country is what we used to experience when we were students. We are afraid you'd come to lie to me and tell me, let's not study. But you at night, you're studying, and then when the exam comes, I will fail the exam because I took your word and did not study. So currently, and going by what the State of the Nation address was, the President spoke into CBC. And I gave a very good example where last weekend I was in Mombasa. And I decided to take a boat ride. And a family joined me with 3 very young boys, maybe around between 8 to 10 years. When we got to the middle of the ocean where you feed the fish, the captain asked who is ready to dive into the water. These 3 boys said, we are CBC students, we know how to swim. They jumped into the water, swam, and later came back to the boat. For me, I sat back and wondered, finally I can appreciate what CBC is. At that age, I did not have that confidence. At that age, I did not know how to swim. I have learned to swim when I was an adult. So that is point number 1. Do you want me to critique what the good thing that is happening in this curriculum? I'm sorry, I won't. The only thing I can tell the government, which I stated, is we must ensure these children have the facilities. We must ensure the cost of CBC is not as high as we are seeing it right now, because parents will keep telling us the uniforms are too expensive. They are being forced to buy uniforms from a particular vendor. So those are the things that we are supposed to keep fighting for these young children. Number 3, we have already employed 56,000 teachers. We confirmed the JSS interns just the other day, 39,000 of them. And those are what we were trying to push into the finance bill. And even despite it not going through, we have still looked for resources to ensure that these teachers are employed. Again, Fred, do you want me to critique what is being done that is good? That one I cannot. Number 2, we go to Taifa Care, or what we are calling SHA. Many of us here will sit and say it is not working. But Fred, hidden in your pocket is a medical card that today if you fell sick or I fell sick, I will rush to any private hospital and I will be treated. But why do we want to lie to the Wanjiku or the person at the bottom of the pyramid that they are not going to be helped by SHA? Considering that before NHIF used to cover them from level 4 hospitals, you had to only be paid for by NHIF if you went to the big hospitals in Laikipia County, that is Nanyuki, Nyahururu, etc. Today SHA is telling you, go to the local dispensary. We are going to pay for you. So somebody who has a stomachache or a headache does not need to travel 10 kilometers to a town to look for a big hospital. They are going to be treated there. They will save on costs of transport. They will also save on time, where they can rush, come back, and continue with the work they are doing in the house. Today, you want to tell that person that no, SHA is not a good thing. Previously, NHIF covered secondary school students with what they used to call eduafia. Today, a parent who had a secondary school student used to think, oh, if my secondary school student gets sick, he'll be taken by the school to hospital. But what happens to this grade 6 child of mine if they get sick? Today, SHA is telling you, from the as long as your child is below 18 years old, you are well catered for by SHA. They can get sick, they can get treated. Many times, Fred, on these media houses and on our screens we have seen somebody who was delivered in an emergency state to a hospital. Because their relatives were not around, the hospital cannot touch them. Or you had to surpass several hospitals to get to a public hospital because that is where your patient can be treated. Today, if you had an accident outside Nairobi Hospital, the ambulance can enter there. They will treat you and claim the money from SHA by sheer fact that you're a Kenyan and you have your ID card to show that you're a Kenyan. Those are the benefits that are there.
I hear you.
Again, Fred, I ask you, do you want me to criticize by people being assisted?
The issue is, all that you've mentioned is well and good, and some of it very good on paper. Yet there are serious challenges facing most of these issues that you're talking about. And many people would hope that legislators who represent the people and oversight this administration should offer better quality than just applause for some of these things. And one wonders, the kind of applause we saw, is that the expectation that even as you debate the State of the Nation address, it is simply to say how good things are and not call out the challenges or probably even suggest better ways of doing it, because the challenges are there and are real. That is a concern about the people. People are saying our MPs are there simply clapping and not talking about the problems we have.
Fred, allow me to...
And let me, because we do have that clip, let's just view it.
Executive agencies and partner nations, that the procuring agencies within the Ministry of Transport and the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum immediately cancel the ongoing procurement process for the JKIA expansion public-private partnership financial transaction. As well as
It is that reaction that Kenyans are concerned about, that we heard the president speak and we understood the president. We expect the House of Legislation to offer better quality to whatever the president suggested. But what we are seeing and what many people believe is that the debate will simply be a session to applaud the president and his pronouncements. Therefore, one wonders, is there really quality in this State of the Nation address, or it's simply a formality that the president and the House of Legislation simply has to go through?
Fred, a repeated lie becomes a truth. When you keep telling people that we are applauding and you choose not to tell them what happened behind the scenes, it will appear what you're saying is the truth. I have told you these are so many consultations that have been held. I wish you could pause at somewhere where somebody in opposition points at the other and tells them, I told you he would do it. Because he kept promising each one of us that we will look into it. So we are happy with the outcome that he had, what we were saying. And this thing will become open and the process will be open to anybody. And Fred, what I would really, really humbly ask is that you are also Kenyans. Let's stop driving our country to the drain as we are all doing. Because you don't want to tell Kenyans the truth. Right now, after I made my statement, you contradicted yourself. You said those are very many good things I agree with. So again, are you telling me to condemn what you're already agreeing with or what is good that is happening to the country? For me, I would wish, can we just become Kenyans for a minute? Our country is on the cliff. We cannot drive it further down. Right. Let us come back together and ask ourselves, even right now when you're saying we keep applauding, show us where we have failed to call it out when it was supposed to be called out. When you say many wrong things are happening in SHA, please spot one. Indicate one. Today, I'm getting phone calls from my people telling me, Jen, I had a knee surgery. Okay. SHA paid for me 300,000. Why don't you highlight that one? Can I bring you those cases and you highlight them from tomorrow?
And before I give you an opportunity, let's take a short break so that we come back and I'll give you that opportunity. You're watching Morning Cafe. Let's take a break now.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side. We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
All right, welcome back for the final stretch of a look at the dailies today. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV47 with me, Fred Indemuli. I'm still in studio with MPs David Kiplagat, Jane Kagiri of Soi and Laikipia constituencies, respectively. Jane Kagiri represents Laikipia County. And Geoffrey Ruku, MP Mbeere North, now joins us. Karibu sana and good morning. I promised Bwana Kiplagat a chance to finalize on that before we move on.
So on this Adani issue, let us also be truthful as media houses, is that if you look at the profile of Adani, what he wanted to do at the airport and what he wanted to do in Ketraco, from their profile, from their CV, they had already done bigger projects on those fronts. So it wasn't like a fluke or somebody who had no experience. It's only that this information that came from the US haven't been indicted, and I can tell you, we should applaud the president. That's why we are applauding him. That information did not last more than 8 hours before action was taken. So given that there is new information that has come that we didn't know, and we acted on that information as even before the media even pronounced themselves on their indictment of Adani, the government had already cancelled. So that implies that we have a listening government, we have a democratic government. If that information had come before we engaged Adani, maybe in Ketraco or in JKIA, it could not have happened. But looking at the profile of that company, I invite you to go to Wikipedia, the most summarized of it all, and look at what he has been able to do.
Okay.
And you can see from the airports, he has developed quite a number of airports through PPP. From the energy sector, he has done quite huge amount of projects within the energy sector, including solar, including what Ketraco does. So all our hands were clean in terms of the necessity to have PPP because our physical space is not enough. No. And this was a guy who had actually had the experience. So had we known this other information, that deal will not have gone through. But given that we have now known that information did not last more than 8 hours before the president acted.
Hence the applause.
And that is the reason we were applauding.
Okay.
So sometimes I think media also give MPs a break so that...
Bwana Ruku, we're looking at this cartoon on the Standard, and it talks about the relationship between members of parliament and the president. There's been a lot of criticism, and I think this is one of them, that whatever the president says, you simply clap. He says, we're going to sign the Adani deal, you clap. We're going to cancel the deal, you clap. The sky is green, and MPs clap. I just want your assessment on the cartoon.
I think it's fair enough for the media and the members of the public to express themselves the way they think is what is happening. It's part of a democracy. And we always say the majority have their way and the minority have their say. Even us, members of parliament, we were not elected by each and every member of our constituency. So people have different opinion, and we should not say this is the right opinion. It may be a very wrong opinion, and from where I stand, it's an extremely wrong opinion. Because we have a nation to build, and we have one end of state and one end of government, and that is the President of the Republic, who is also the symbol of the national unity. When we are sworn in Parliament, we are sworn in, we took 2 oaths of office. And we have to be faithful to those 2 oaths of office which we took. And I don't think when President is right, when he makes something or when he makes a statement which is resonate well with the members of Parliament, they should not always criticize or always say something to demean what the President is saying. it is several statements members of parliament have said what the president is saying is wrong, or what the policy president is trying to implement, depending on which policy. Some of them we are against some of those policies. Mm-hmm. For instance, on Monday, I said on one of the stations that there's no system which can cost 104 billion Kenyan shilling. Health system. And if it is a truth, we are just reading things in social media. Mm-hmm. In today's world, there is a lot of disinformation and misinformation going on. You cannot even understand what is truthful and what is not truthful. So, if true that we have a system which we are implementing, which is costing 104 billion Kenyan shilling, that is too much. That needs to be looked into. My brother here, Honorable Kiplagat, is an expert when it comes to software development, and he can tell you there's no software or system which can be developed with such huge amount of money. So when a policy is wrong, we say it's wrong. When something is proper, we say it's proper, and we give it a standing ovation. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay? And mentioning Andani, it is a thing of the past. Why do we want to dwell in the past? Let's have proposals on what we are going to do as far as our airport is concerned. All right. Let's have proposals on how we are going to have universal health care in a most proper way. We should not always dwell in the past. It is cancelled, it is not there, but go to our airport. Nobody is happy as far as our airport is concerned. Okay, comparing to the regional airport, we still have a proper, a much comparable airport. But when you go to internationally, go to Istanbul, see the kind of world-class airport you are talking about. Go to other major international airport outside there, see the kind of airport which we have which we should be having here in Kenya. Mm-hmm. So the thing is, we don't have resources to take care of some of these expenses. We have to find an innovative way of taking care of some of these projects which are extremely essential for our economy. Okay. So let's get those proposals from Idmuri, from the other person. But the question of looking at the back, driving using rear mirror, this is not the way. This is not the way you drive with Muri. Okay, fair enough. We're done with this cartoon, and I think the members of parliament on this panel have agreed that this was a bit misplaced in as far as its reference to the behavior of legislators, honorable members of the National Assembly and the Senate. I want us to move on to what is the big headline today, and it's the president's visit to Kisumu. It has caused quite some excitement across board. It is on all the front pages of the major dailies. What the president said on the Daily Nation, Ruto, why Gachagua had to go, and a picture of him in Kisumu. Jaribuni mtamfuata Gachagua, habari kuu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Habari ni ile ile. Gazeti nyingine hapa nikiangalia gani hii, on the Star, or even on the front page, rousing welcome as city rolls out red carpet for Ruto, and a picture of the president on top of his vehicle addressing a mammoth crowd at Kondele. This has caused quite some excitement, and the president says that anyone in his administration who is more concerned about one community will follow suit. On the Standard, it reads, will Raila bases cool heat from Mount Kenya? And then I think there it draws a comparison, because many people are drawing the comparison between what happened to the president when he went to Embu for the Catholic Church event, and the kind of a welcome he received in Kisumu. Now, on one hand, there appears to be caution about this country moving in that direction, where we talk about this region will support you better than the other region. Yet what we are showing physically or publicly is that, yes, this region can actually counter that region in terms of support for the president. Are we getting confused somewhere in this conversation? If we're saying
let's leave these issues of tribe and community aside. Yet, physically, we're trying to show that there's muscle here if you don't give me your support.
So maybe just to comment on the political space that is happening, it's important, Idemule, that you realize that comparison between national unity and tribalism, always national unity will carry the day. So if you are propelling your politics based on national unity, I can tell you, you will win anytime, any day. But if you are propelling your politics based on balkanization, tribalism, and regionalism, you will remain a regional kingpin, but you will not enter anywhere near a national unity office like State House. So the president is very right. Let us bring everyone together. No part of this or no part of the country should be left behind, and that is the rallying call. And you know also, Indemule, from your argument, I think you tend to bring that balkanization.
No, I'm just making reference to the dailies, to the front pages.
When you now start comparing Embu,
you do have a copy of the standard.
Don't worry, I'm making my argument. So when you start comparing Embu and Kondele, I don't know where this comparison is. You are trying as much as possible to drive that wage of balkanization. But our rallying call for the broad-based government, for our Kenya Kwanza government, is that let us rally everyone and every region together.
All we do on this show is take a look at the headlines. This is a headline on the Standard today. Will Raila bases cool heat from Mount Kenya? The comparison is there on the front pages. That's why I'm asking the question.
It is also the media. It is not, these were written by you guys. It was not written by Jesus. So they were written by you and you want us to go that direction. No. What we are saying is we are preaching peace, we are preaching national unity, and we want all the regions to come together to develop the fabric called Kenya. And that is it. So you cannot take us also into these things you have printed yourselves and make us now try to comment on tribalism and balkanization and regionalism.
It is a conversation that we cannot run away from. Let me just read this.
But this conversation...
Facing rebellion in Mount Kenya after Rigathi Gachagwa's impeachment, President Ruto gave his strongest hint yet that he's ready for new allies, even as his central fight-back plan met with resistance.
But who has written that? It's you guys.
It's a journalist. These are different media houses.
Yeah, so I'm telling you, this is the story.
What is your take on this discussion?
Fred, I'll pick it up from where my colleague left it. And I'll tell you, I believe it's in the book of Matthew or Mark, the parable of the talents. When our days end and we find ourselves in heaven, God will ask you, I gave you talents. As the media houses, as the journalists, what did you do with those talents? Did you multiply them or did you destroy them? I leave it at that.
So media houses are wrong
no, they
having
are not
this
wrong,
discussion?
But what information are you disseminating to the people? And as I was listening to you, I felt a strong sadness in my heart. Because Laikipia County, in the year 2007, when we had tribal clashes all over the country, Laikipia remained peaceful and silent. Yet Laikipia County has all the 42 tribes in this country. They live there and they are in good numbers. So, Fred, when I see such conversations come up, it takes me back to where Laikipia has come from. There is a time Laikipia people could not sleep at night because of being attacked by various communities. Today, we are the most peaceful county. Your media houses could not run a week without talking about murders in Laikipia or attacks in Laikipia. Today, it is peaceful, it is calm, it is quiet. Why somebody wants to take us back to days where we have come from really saddens my heart and makes me wonder. And that is why even during the impeachment contribution, I gave my submission, I said mine is for two reasons. The fact that I come from a cosmopolitan county, where I'm expected to be the mother to everybody in that county. And somebody wants to bring it to my people that Jane actually should only be taking care of a certain segment of her community, or of her county. That is what I refused. Number two, I said, when we bring in the argument of 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote, who is not Kenyan in this country? When we believe that some people need to get more money, and especially my county of Laikipia was supposed to be the first in losing its resources. So why would we support such arguments, yet we are one country as Kenya? But Fred, what I would want to say is please, 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 as media houses, can we just put our country first? These divisions are not something that we should be pushing to our people. Because for me, I believe the three people who guide our people are the churches, the media houses, and their leaders. So we are trying to tell our people, come together. The minute they agree to come together, comes Fred. No, Mount Kenya is on this side, Luo Nyanza is on this side. I try to bring them together. And Fred, because I don't want to lose this thought, I'll take you a step back to the PPPs. And you asked what should be the way forward of media houses. And I want to tell you something, and I'm not a prophet. God willing, in 2027, Fred, these same media houses, you're going to highlight on all our social media spaces, we will have people sharing how Rwanda International Airport looks like. They will share beautiful pictures, they'll see how well Rwanda is doing well, and they'll say how well Kenya is failing. But Fred, what you people have not told our Kenyans is that the international airport being constructed in Rwanda, the government has 40% stake, Qatar Airways has 60% stake. Do you know once that international airport is completed in Rwanda, what will happen? Every time you take a Qatar Airways flight, it has to stop by in Doha to fuel as it proceeds to your destination. Now, flights from Africa will no longer need to go to Doha. They will all be going to Rwanda, stopping there as they proceed to the rest. What will happen to the tourism in Rwanda? Knowing tourism is the highest employer in the world. Rwanda will grow in its tourism numbers. Here is Kenya. We have 2 million tourists per year, yet France, which is number one, has around 80 million. Are we planning to grow our numbers on tourism? We are the same ones saying these days our hotels are empty. How are we going to grow the hotels, the tourists coming to Kenya? If we are not going to tell our people the truth, tell them PPPs are the way to go. We keep talking about countries we used to.
And I don't think there's opposition to PPPs. Probably it's in the manner that this PPP had been conducted. Even you raised questions about the manner in which
I'm saying it's your duty to enlighten Kenyans. If you remember about Adani came much later. But what was the conversation with Kenyans? Our airport is being sold. Do you remember that conversation? So even if we bring in another open tender, have we enlightened our fellow Kenyans to let them know that a PPP is not a sale? Expressway was a PPP. Today we all enjoy it. We used to take start 2 hours ahead of a flight to go to the airport. These days you dash in 10 minutes and you're already at the airport. Have we lost our road? The road remains Kenyan. The minute the company that constructed the road makes its money, they will exit and leave us an expressway which will forever benefit us and our children. So I believe it is our duty as leaders, our duty as media houses. Let us enlighten our people. We compare ourselves to Korea, Malaysia, countries doing well. All these people are doing PPPs. India, all their international airports in the last 10 years have all been built through PPPs. Why don't we tell our people the truth and tell them this is the way to go and we are not losing any of our assets as a country?
Back to this conversation we were having, Banaruku, this headline on the Standard. What's your take on it? Will Raila base his cool heat from Mount Kenya? There's a direct comparison there. Are we saying that the media is wrong in drawing such comparisons?
Media is extremely wrong because media is not putting in mind Article 10 of our Constitution, which talks about the national values and principles of governance. Idumuri, Article 10 is clear. We gifted ourselves a constitution as a nation, and this constitution is binding to each and every individual within the boundaries of the Republic of Kenya. The national values. What are these national values? President of the Republic is only talking about the national values of the Republic. The national unity is extremely important, is one of the national values of, as far as the Article 10 of our Constitution is concerned. Patriotism, you know, the rule of law, democracy and the participation of the people, human dignity, equity, social justice, inclusiveness, equality. So we can't go preaching regionalism at the same time talking about the national unity. Article 10 of our Constitution is not just mere paper or writing, which have no meaning. This is a very important article within our Constitution. Okay. And anybody who is not preaching national unity, that person does not qualify to be a leader in this nation. It doesn't qualify to hold any public office in this nation, whether from MCO or the way to the presidency, whether from a CEO or a permanent secretary or cabinet secretary. All state officers must abide themselves with the provisions of Article 10 of our Constitution. And therefore, when I see such kind of entry, I also feel very sad. We should be able to unite this country regardless of your position in the society.
Okay.
Because the issues of, in my constituency, we have all manner of communities, people from different part of this country who live there, who work there. Kenya is becoming more cosmopolitan than it was in 1990s. Our children who are in schools at the moment, who are clearing high school and universities, most of them, they don't know how to speak their mother tongues. In another 10 years, not even, in less than 10 years, many Kenyans will not be able to speak their mother tongue because of the way they are brought up. So telling my boy, who probably have just cleared high school, that you come from this region, a region which he has never stayed, which he has never, what are we trying to do? Okay. What is this we are preaching? So those who have this kind of entrance, those who are propagating this kind of debate, they should know this is during Moi's time, not even Kibaki's time. Time has moved. Kenyans have moved on. And that's why when President William Ruto won in the year 2022, most of the people were so surprised. Okay. Because Kenya has moved long ago from the tribal kind and regional types of politics. It's just like where I come from in my constituency. Yeah. We have clan politics. People in Bere North moved a long time ago from clanism. Anybody who will try and start using clan to campaign and to bring people together, that is something which was used by Nyaga Jeremiah and many others.
And we have exactly 3 minutes, so I'll give you each a minute for your parting shots. You could start with
anybody who is using regionalism and balkanization of Kenya into blocks. I'm telling you, you will be surprised come 2027, because that is not where majority of Kenyans are. Okay. Very few are there. We still have them because of old habit die hand. But I can assure you, they will not go anywhere as far as taking any position of leadership of this country.
Okay, that's your parting shot? Okay.
My parting shot, Edmuri, is that we have many serious problems facing our society at the moment, and which the government and the registrators are trying to take care to tackle. One of them is education. We are transiting to grade 9 in January, where all high schools in the Republic of Kenya will be losing 1 class, because now we'll be having 3 classes. This will cause a major financial changes as far as the school's earnings and income is concerned. We are going to see many schools laying off staff. It is something which we need to think about as a Minister of Education, as leaders, because those who are working in most of these schools are families. We should be able to know what's going to happen to those who will be laid off, and what is this we can do as leaders to ensure probably there will be no laying off of the staff who are working in some of these secondary schools.
Asante sana. Jane, your parting shot?
Fred, my parting shot would be that we are all Kenyans and we have no other country to go to. So let each one of us take our responsibility as leaders, as media houses, as the Kenyans, and take our position in owning our country. Let us just not see the bad about our country, but let's all work together to see how we can improve it and make it better. And a lot of good things are happening. This year, Fred, which again, not any media house has reported, we are projecting to harvest 74 million bags of maize. Our consumption is 52 million bags. That should tell us we are becoming an exporting country of maize. Before we always talked about maize imports, now we are talking about export of maize. So things are looking good and they will even get better. Thank you.
Asante sana. Finally, Bwana Kiplagat.
Okay, my parting shot is that looking at the bigger picture, the government is trying as much as possible. Look at the inflation, it is now at the lowest. If you look at all the economic macro fundamentals, all of them are good. If you look at the interest rate, they are coming down. The inflation is at its lowest at 2.7%. The cost of living, you remember when we came, the cost of fuel was very high. The cost of maize flour in the supermarkets, You remember the Sifurias issue. So all the issue of sugar. Right now, we are actually a net exporter of sugar for the first time. Look at the problems we have been having in sugar. We are trying to sort in the issue of coffee. We were discussing the bill the other day. It is in the committee of the whole, and and the rearrangement that is happening in tea, the diversification that we are doing. So if you look at the issue of universal healthcare, it is coming in. The teething problems is as a result of the underfunding that happened, because there were money that was supposed to be transferred from the GOK to support SHA, especially for the chronic illness. But because of the issue of that fiscal space I was talking about, it reduced a bit. And as we do the supplementary two in February, we shall avail more funds to stabilize that. So I can tell you the issue of the universal health care, that one will be sorted. But as I finish, PPP is the way to go. The only way we can do bigger major projects that will change this country is through PPP. So let us all support in principle that is the way to go. How it is executed, the executors of those PPPs needs to do it as per the law, and to ensure at least the way Kenyans, they have value for their money. Thank you.
David Kiplagat, MP Soy, asante sana. Jane Kagiri, Woman Rep Laikipia. Thank you. And Geoffrey Ruku, MP Mbeere North, our panelist this morning on State of the Nation, as we take a look at the big headlines. Very interesting conversations, and the media taking quite some flack as far as this panel is concerned. Asanteni sana for your time at TV47. Yes, today is the third day of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. So that conversation comes up after the break. And a woman representative like Laikipia County will be in studio alongside Shiksha for that conversation. Do stand by for that. My name is Freddie Demuli.